Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode on Laid Back the Atorozinga podcast. Our topic for this week is life after retirement. So, our guest for today is a retired lecturer in mental health nursing who championed widening participation and student success at the University of the West of England, Bristol. Hello, Mandy. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Rinze. Thank you very much.
How have you been?
I've been very good. Retirement definitely suits me.
Well, I've seen your pictures on Facebook. You're traveling around the world enjoying life. Yeah. But before we get into it, you retired as a mental health nurse. Why did you actually go into mental health nursing in the first place?
Oh, Rinze, that's a really, really good question. I was maybe lucky. Some people would probably say unlucky, but unfortunately my mum had quite severe mental health problems when I was young. I was introduced to the world of mental health about 13, which I guess is quite a pivotal age for some.
Yeah.
And mum was taken into the local psychiatric hospital, and I remember being actually quite fascinated by it. I think a lot of people would be quite scared by it, but for me it fascinated me and I wanted to know more. So I guess really that was the beginning of my journey, Rinze, into mental health.
Yeah. So what did you do? Actually, do you first go into care as a support worker, or you just went straight to nursing? What was your career trajectory like?
Oh, Rinze, no, I believe it or not, I like maths, and although I have mental health, you usually have to do work experience, and I did work experience in a bank. And I've never been so bored in my entire life, Rinze. So I was like, what was it about banking I liked? And apart from the money, it was the people. So I decided I was actually originally going to be a social worker. I quite liked the idea of doing social work. But at that point in time, you couldn't do social work till you were 21. So I started on a college course when I was 16 and really didn't enjoy it. And after a year, I said that I was leaving the college course, and my parents said, not unless you find a job, because that's what parents do. So I flipped through. It was because you could do mental health nursing when you were 18. So I thought, well, I'll do my mental health nursing. And while I was a cadet, while I was doing my apprenticeship, if you like, somebody said, why don't you be a nurse? And at the time, I thought nursing meant general nursing. I didn't know there was such a thing as a mental health nurse. And I said, oh, no, blood and guts. And yes, there is blood and guts in psychiatric nursing, but nowhere near as much as there in general medicine. And they said, no, why don't you become a psychiatric nurse? And I thought, well, I can do that at 18. So that's what started my journey into mental health, Rinze.
Oh, okay. But since you've retired now, what's life like before and after retirement? Is there any difference? Do you miss the adrenaline?
I think being retired is very good for my mental health, Rinze. I would say that. But interestingly, again, I prepped for retirement. I was very lucky, Rinze, to be able to take early retirement. My dad managed to go at 50. Sadly, I didn't go as quickly as him, but I was always planning to go early. And I happened to be working at the time, as well as working at the university. I had a role in two young people's mental health trusts. And I came up with this idea from my last year of working to ask a variety of people what they suggested I did in retirement. And I asked a whole range of people, and I called it the 3665 because it was the last year of my work. And for every person I met, I'd put £1 in one of the charity pots, and I'd ask them what I should do for retirement, and they could put £1 in if they wanted to.
Yeah.
And what was really interesting, because I asked a wide spectrum of people, I asked them 2 questions, Rinze. What should I do in retirement, and what should I do to look after my mental health?
Yeah.
And what was lovely about that is it gave me a year with lots of people's different perspectives to think about what I would do in retirement.
Yeah.
So, and that ranged from, there was quite a lot of themes that came out. They were quite similar, Rinze, like exercise, like friends, like socializing, but there was also some really specific ones, like go and have a game of golf with your dad.
Interesting.
It was. And I said to my friend, why have you said that? And he said, because I never got a chance to do something with my dad. I think you should. Oh. Yeah. I did have that game. Well, Rinze, actually, I didn't ever have that game of golf with my dad, because I asked him if I could have a game of golf with him, and he said, no, I'll take you to the driving range and I'll show you why I'm not going to give you a game of golf. And I was so rubbish, Rinze, that I totally got it.
Yeah. But at least you guys had fun together.
We did. And I think that's the thing. I think when you're retired, I think when you're at work, quite often you don't have chance to, you're constantly, you asked me a question about what was the difference.
Yeah.
And I think the difference when you're at work is you're constantly trying to chase your tail in some ways, meet up with everybody, meet your requirements.
Expectation.
Yeah, you're constantly up against the clock in a way that you're not in retirement. And I think that's the real privilege of being retired, is, and I guess also what's so lovely is you see the seeds of, as you've gone through your life and your career, you've supported students and you've supported other nurses, and you get to see what they're doing whilst you're in retirement and mentoring and stuff. So I think it's a really lovely space to be. But what I would say, Rinze, is it sometimes it's not good for everybody, retirement.
Yeah, you're right, because I know a lot of people actually worried about retirement. They worry about their finance, they worry about healthcare. And something you did is actually quite innovative, because you did something for charity, and you got a lot of polls, opinions, actually and see what you could actually do after retirement. So if there's another person who is trying to plan for retirement out there, what tip would you give the person? Maybe not to do what you've done. Like, what else do you think the person can do to plan for retirement?
Well, I think that's the first thing, Rinze, I think, is to plan for retirement. I think sometimes what happens is people retire, but they don't have anything planned. And then it's really difficult, because all of your life, if you've worked all your life, you've had a structure. You've got up at 6 o'clock or whatever time in the day, you've come home, you've done your dinner. When that goes, it can really throw people. So I think probably the biggest bit of advice I'd give people is to actually plan for it. I think that would be my biggest bit of advice.
But is there any planning tips you could give anyone out there?
Oh, planning tips. I guess to make sure that you've got people around you that maybe have also retired. Because I think one of the things I did when I was planning for retirement is I luckily had quite a few friends and colleagues that had recently retired, and it was picking their brains about, okay, what's important in retirement? What do I need to be doing? What do I need to be doing to plan for retirement? Yeah. And again, I think one of the very sensible things that somebody said to me was, make sure you've done all of the big things. If you have a home, make sure you've done all of the big things that need work before you retire, because you don't have as much money when you're retired, obviously. And actually that was a pretty sound bit of advice as well. Yeah,
that's really, really interesting. Because if you retire and you realize you don't have people around you, that may damage your mental health, actually.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And I think I've known family and friends that have retired and really struggled really struggled because they hadn't planned it, they didn't know what to do. And I think it really does affect your mental health, and it can affect it in both ways. You know, for me, I would say it's been a real positive thing, me retiring. Reduces a lot of stress, but for other people it may not be quite the same. So I think we plan for lots of things. I don't think we plan for retirement in quite the same way, Rinze.
Yeah, I'm still far away from retirement, but I've seen a lot of people who retired and they are happy with themselves, and I've seen other people who retired and they are not happy at all. So I think it's down to planning, actually. Yeah.
Well, and planning from a young age as well, because and I think when I speak to young people as well, because I suppose being a psychiatric nurse, I was quite lucky, Rinze, because I didn't have the choice. I had to pay into a pension when I was younger.
Yeah.
And I think that set me up for life. Whereas a lot of people don't. When you're younger, you don't think about retirement, do you? Because you've got other things that you're thinking about. But I think that planning actually from a very young age is really, really important.
Yeah. I actually know someone who retired as a physician and then became a doctor.
Yeah.
Retired as a doctor and became an actor.
Oh,
So,
wow!
yeah. So, is there any passion of yours you've taken up since retired? Something similar? Anything you've taken up since retired?
Yeah, Rinze, my passion has always been around mental health. And when I was in Bristol, there was a charity up that I worked for called Off the Record, which is a young people's mental health charity.
Okay.
And I used to love being in Bristol. And if I had a young person that had any mental health issues, I would be able to direct them to Off the Record. But I used to drive home, and I live in Somerset, Rinze, and there was absolutely nothing in Somerset. And I vowed when I retired that I would look at trying to support and develop something in rural Somerset.
Yeah.
And we set up about 3 years ago, which was when I was beginning to think about retiring. There was a young people's mental health charity that was set up in Cheddar, where I live, and I've been part of that as a trustee since I retired. And that's the bit that keeps my brain active, Rinze, along with all the holidays and things like that you do when you're retired. And I think it's also about paying back, that I think is really important. You know, I'm lucky enough that I'm still physically able and mentally able to do something while I've retired. So it's how do I pay back?
Yeah. Oh, okay. So the charity you work for, in what capacity do you work for them now? Is it as just you consult for them, or as a director, non-executive director? What do you do for them?
No, Rinze, a lot of charities struggle with there is
Funding.
Every charity has a board of trustees, which is basically a governing body, Rinze. No charity can, and it. A lot of charities struggle to find trustees, so that's a role that I fulfill, because it doesn't mean that I have to be there every week at a youth club or whatever it might be, Rinze. It just means that I can be there, I guess, in a bit of a consultancy way, but also to kind of guide the charity and support it and develop it.
Okay. Oh, interesting. Wow. So, back to retirement now. I saw somewhere where someone said that during retirement, the person called it the 6 W's of retirement. So the person said is, who do I spend my retirement with? What do I want to do? Spend my retirement doing? When do I want to retire? Why do I want to retire? Where do I want to retire? And how will I pay for my retirement? Did you worry about these different things, or did you plan differently? I know you've mentioned how you did
Rinze, that's a really, really good question. No, I don't think I was that calculated in my plan. I mean, I knew I wasn't going to move anywhere particularly, because some people move when they retire, so that wasn't a particular option for me.
Yeah.
I have to be mindful, obviously, financially, especially with the cost of living. You know, I wasn't expecting to retire and the cost of living skyrocket.
Yeah.
But no, I don't. I think it was more about what was I going to do and who was I going to spend my time with.
Yeah.
And that develops as well as you get, because when you first leave work, I think you keep in touch with people. And then life moves on, because life is busy for people when they're working. So you keep in touch with some people and you change your friendship groups. I mean, I'm very lucky as well, Rinzi. I've got a lot of long-standing friends.
Yeah.
So I think that's important. But equally, it doesn't, I think I like to be sociable. I like to be around people. That's really important for me and my mental health, Rinzi.
Yeah.
But it isn't for a lot of people. A lot of people quite like, are more introverted and quite like to be on their own, in their own space, maybe doing a creative hobby or something. Yeah. I've got a friend who's taken up sculpting.
Yeah.
You know.
And they need that introverted nature to be creative, yeah.
And I think that's another thing, Lindsay. I always thought I wasn't very creative. And I think that was partly because I didn't have anybody in my family that was creative. We were more of a sporting family, if that makes sense, Rinzi. And as I've retired, what's been lovely is to have the opportunity to explore a side of me I didn't think I had. Yeah. When actually there is a little bit of a creative side. I write poetry, and I've been able to explore that, Rinzi, in a way that I couldn't when I was at work. Well, unless people left, and then I'd write them a poem.
Yeah. But that's a passion you've picked up, apart from the charity since you retired, actually, writing poetry. But I think everybody's actually creative. And I think sometimes we explore that when we are a little bit, we'll give ourselves time off and spend a little bit time on our own, because that's what creativity. All these startup companies we talk about, they all cropped up because somebody starts on their own to think out an idea. That's most of the time. That's how it crops up. So I'm happy to hear you are doing something with your poetry. So are you going to publish anything you've written so far?
If it was down to my friends, and my old work colleagues, they'd be saying you should be writing a book, Mandy. I think a lot of people say you've got a book in you, haven't you? I think that's a lot of people's dreams. I'm not particularly. I don't think you should never say never, Rinzi, but it's not on my horizon at the moment. But who knows? I've still got all of my old nursing paperwork and all of my director stuff, so maybe there will be a book in the future, Rinzi.
I'm looking forward to that. But because of time, let's just round off. So I've seen on your Facebook that you've been traveling. So what are your top 5 places on your bucket list yet to visit that you would love to go to?
Oh, the top 5. Another good question. Well, I've been lucky enough that I've done every continent bar. Now it's gone out of my head. What's the size? I'll come back to that one. Cuba would be up there in my bucket list.
Why Cuba? Why Cuba?
Oh, just because I think it's got such fascinating history.
Interesting, okay.
Yeah, Cuba. Japan would be up there. Again, totally different culture. I'd love to go back to Africa. I'm not quite sure which country in Africa, but Africa would definitely be up there.
You know where I'm about to say, right?
What are you about to say, Rinzi?
You know where I'm about to tell you to go to?
Go on.
Don't worry. Let's continue. You should go to Nigeria,
Do you know what? It was really funny. I knew you were going to say that. I was like, it's going to be Nigeria, because that's where everybody says I have to go. Yeah. So various old colleagues have said, you've got to come to Nigeria. So I guess that would have to be up there. Yeah. The Antarctic, that's the word I was looking for, because that's the only continent I haven't been on, but that's very expensive, Rinzi, so I don't think I'll get there. Yeah. And probably Southern Ireland as well.
Where?
Ireland. Yeah, Southern Ireland.
Where's that?
Just off just off the English coast. Just the little across the waters.
Is it the Gonna Sea and the rest of them? Which is it?
Sorry?
Is it the Gonna Sea area or what? What's it called?
Oh no, just Ireland as in part of the UK, not as in a island.
Oh,
yeah.
You've never been to Ireland?
Well, not much, no, Rinze.
Are you serious? Wow.
I'm serious. I need to go.
That's interesting. I'm surprised. I'm surprised you've lived all your life in the UK. You've never been to Ireland.
Yeah, I know. Well, this is what happens when you live there. You go abroad and then you don't go and visit.
That's true.
That's
true. Oh,
but
wow.
Nigeria is definitely absolutely, it's up there.
Oh wow. So have you been to Northern Ireland?
Yes, I did do Belfast.
Okay,
yes,
but you haven't done Dublin and the rest of them.
No, have you?
Yeah, I actually have. I've gone to Wales. I've gone to I'm in England. I've gone to Northern Ireland. I've gone to Belfast and Enniskillen. I've gone to Ireland. So I'm surprised you haven't done that. Oh wow. Yeah. Oh wow. So finally, we have your list. Your list is Cuba, if I'm getting it right. The Ireland, Antarctica. Yeah. That's 3. Africa. You mentioned Nigeria. What's the 5th one?
Antarctica.
No, I've mentioned Antarctica.
What was the 5th one? What did we come up with?
So you came up with again Cuba.
I would probably go back to Canada. Actually, Rinze. Canada, I loved.
Why do you like Canada?
Wide open spaces, people.
Okay, because I know a lot of people complain about the harsh weather out there.
That's true. I went in the summer.
Fair enough. You went in the summer. Okay, that's fine. Because I know a lot of people complain about the harsh weather, and I don't want to go down there at all. Interesting. Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much, Mandy, for your time, and thank you for coming onto the show.
Rinze, you are more than welcome. Good luck with the show.
Thank you. I hope you had fun, though.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Definitely. We'll do this again.